engines. This is the Women's Motorsports Network. From dirt track nights to the bright race lights, from the garage to victory lane. Women are rising, chasing the dream, with horsepower running through their veins. Women's Motorsports Network. Hear those engines roar. Stories of courage, speed, and heart, like you've never heard before. Fuel her future, fuel her dreams. Every lap we celebrate. Women's Motorsports Network. Let's hit the track. Let's hit the track. Women's Motorsports Network. Connecting and celebrating women in motorsports. One story at a time.
Have you recently hit a pothole? Did you end up with a bent wheel? The tire shop's going to try to sell you a new one, but you don't need to drop hundreds of dollars. Call Mark at A Cut Above Welding in Kalamazoo. He'll repair the wheel, sand it, paint it, and have it looking like new for a fraction of the cost. With over 50 years of welding and fabricating experience, A Cut Above Welding gets it done right and fast. Call Mark at 269-760-1109. That's 269-760-1109. A Cut Above Welding. No job too small, just big results. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And I have a friend with me today. Stefy and I met quite a number of years ago, actually. And she was on one of my very first podcasts back in the day. But she's doing so many exciting things that I wanted to have her on again so that we could talk about all the fun things she's doing. She's traveling all over the world. And so, Stefy, I want you to kind of introduce yourself, share a little bit about yourself, and then tell us, how did you get involved in motorsports?
Yes. Hi, everyone. And thank you, Melinda, for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to talk with other women that they are involved in motorsport. So every time I get the call, I'm always like, yep, let's do this. So very happy for that. So a little bit of a story about me for the ones that they are not familiar with. You can probably hear that I have an accent. So I was born in Italy. I lived in Italy until I was 21 years old. So my entire family is over in Italy. But at the tender age of 4, I asked my mom and dad to buy me a motorcycle. So they ended up getting me a Pee-wee, like a Yamaha Pee-wee. And then, bought all the gear, helmet and chest protector and boots and anything that was needed. And they put me on. And my family has not a background in motorsport at all. Like, the only thing that they were involved with was the fact that they really liked motorsport, so 2 and 4 wheels. So when, for example, the motocross world championship for the guys were coming in Italy, the round in Italy, they always were going to watch it. But that's kind of like the extent at that stage, that they were involved with. So as a little girl in a country, they tend to be kind of conservative and a little bit patriotic. No, the word is, I don't come up with the word.
Okay.
But a country that is a little bit conservative, like it was a big shock for everybody, including my extended family, right? But mom and dad said, you want to do this, we support you. And again, they put me on and I knew how to do it. So from that time, we kind of like came 2 years later to know that there was races for little kids. So we decided to go and try, again, completely inexperienced, like we ended up just showing up and see what I could do. The very first race in my life, I finished 3rd with the little boys. And after that year, I won every races I competed with. So as you can imagine, like a little kid, coming home with a trophy, every other weekend that you go to the races, it was kind of like something that I fell in love with. And I made my life mission to continue to do that.
That's so fun. And to think that at 4 years old, you were interested in a little motorcycle. Had you seen it on TV, or where did you get the idea about a motorcycle?
I guess it was because my mom and dad were going to watch the round of the Motocross World Championship. And since I was a very, very little, they brought me to it. So it's kind of like I grew up by listening, to the
Mhm.
two-stroke sounds back then, and smelling the gas and all of that kind of things. And I just felt that I loved it, and in addition to that, there were magazines in the household. So, like you go up and you look at the magazine and you see all of these, like colorful athletes, because motocross tend to be very colorful,
Mhm.
and then I mean, I just fell in love with it. And I actually can tell you that at the age of 6, I looked at my mom and dad in the eyes and I said, one day I will become the best motorcycle racer in the world and I will move to the United States of America at 6. And I ended up doing it.
But you know what? I have a good friend, and what he always said is, the story in your mind is the story of your life, and that was
Yes.
you, even at 6 years old.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. Like when you put your mind into something and you really want it, there is nothing that can stop you. And I feel like the more and more women around the world needs to believe that.
Yes, I agree. And they have to put all the naysayers to bed and say, I'm not going to
Mhm.
listen to those people. This is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And I love when I talk to so many women who really do that. They just say, I'm not going to let anybody stop me. And that's so fun to hear their stories.
Yeah, I believe that's the key. Like if you really wanted to do something in life, you have a passion, just follow it. Just keep going and follow it, and you're going to get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. So now, Steffi, when did you stop racing and start this new? It's not that new of an adventure now, but sort of still new. So tell
Yeah.
me where you got to where you are today.
So I ended up racing for a very long time. I was able to win 3 world titles for the women class, and I became the first woman ever to race a round of the men FIM Motocross World Championship. So for me, that was very important because it was a way to show everybody that it is possible in the world stage. And it was something that I wanted to do since I was very little. So I'm happy that I was able to accomplish that. And I also, in the US, I also race in Supercross and monocross with the guys. So a lot of the time at the racetrack when the WMX, which is the Women National Series, back then was called WMA, it was done usually, at the same day of the guys. And what had happened is a lot of time I was doing double duty. I was racing the girls and then come out, just change the helmet, because it was drenched, get a little bit refreshed, and then back at the gate again to race with the guys. So I really wanted to show that it was possible. So it was not too much of a stretch for me. I really wanted to do it. And in 2005, when I did that round of the FIM Motocross World Championship and, entered it for the first time, a woman did that. That was my bittersweet year because even though I did that, so I made history happen in a way, at the end of the season when I was ready, starting to prepare for the 2006 season, I ended up getting hurt very bad. I had a career-ending injury. It was very dramatic for a few months there, touch and go. Because what happened to me, I misjudged a jump, and I landed in the wrong way, and I destroyed both of my ankles. So
Mhm.
much so that immediately the doctors wanted to amputate my legs. So it was hard, but beside the physical aspect, that, well, we are at racers, so we go through this. And every time you crash and you get hurt, in your mind is always like, okay, I crashed 10 times, I get up 11. But
Right.
when like it happens, that you need to start to realize that you might get up, but you might not do this again. It's very difficult. I can tell
Sure.
you. It was
Mhm.
a big change in my life, because a lot of the time when you're a professional athlete, you never believe you're going to stop doing what you love. So when it happens like that in a split of a second, that now what? You know, like,
Right.
it was very, very difficult, and I had the dark moments, like for a little while, but thanks to family, and the people around, I was able to turn negative into positive and decide that, hey, I was 28 years old when I got hurt that bad. And I was able to start a brand new career, so I turned it around and thought about that. So that's kind of like my biggest shift happened, with that accident. But again, because I love what I do, and I love motorsport, I needed to just move from one side of the fence to the other side of the fence. And
Right.
that's exactly what I did. So luckily for me, when I was able to kind of walk again, it took some time, but,
Sure.
we managed. The FIM and the Motocross World Championship decided that, hey, you were racing those things, those events, you were winning them. What about now that you become the general manager? And so you can bring your knowledge and experience to all the other girls. So I said, yes, that would be an honor. And it was good to see the industry kind of like rally around me and help me out in this transition. And that was kind of like my switch from a professional athlete to being involved in the industry. And then fast forward to today, where you were mentioning what I do today, because I am a person that really likes to break those glass ceilings and
Mhm.
really likes to figure out ways to get more women involved with motorsport. I created a company called Init Esports, and Init Esports grabbed the attention of young people, young women, or even minorities, and give them the chance to be involved in motorsport via video games, so sim racing. The reason why is because we all know that this sport is expensive. Two-wheel or four-wheel, it takes a lot of financial commitment to be able to make it. And a lot of the time we lose people along the way, because it's not easy, like to come up always with a budget. And especially for women,
Yes.
it's been a struggle for a long time. So by creating this movement for women globally around the world, we are having the chance to give whoever wants to get involved in motorsport a chance to be seen digitally, because as we all know, we live in this digitally connected world. So it's, we meet them where they are, right?
Right.
And create a full-on pathway to give them the chance not only to be seen, because esport is very prominent nowadays. Just a fun data point here: a third of the world population identify as a gamer. So 3.3 billion people said that they are some sort of gamers. So even if we have a 0.01% of that, it's a big number, and we can influence and continue to put confidence in women that they want to get involved into this world. And then thanks to the connection that I have in the real motorsport world, it becomes a no-brainer, right? So
Yes.
we really take them step by step. We get them to compete online, being seen, by many, many people, and then connect the bridges and give them the opportunity to enter in real life racing.
Wow. I'm listening to your story, and that spanned, a number of years, and yet there was such purpose to you when you wanted to compete, and then compete with the men. You had such a drive to do that you did break a lot of barriers, and then when that was taken away from you, luckily you had all that family and support around you, because that can be a crushing, it was a crushing blow, but that can be the end all for many people when they
Mhm.
just feel like who they are is how what they were an athlete, and that they could never be anything else. And yet you've turned it around to where now this is huge. It's huge. I mean, people hear about it all the time, and to be able to have women all over the world, Steffi, that's
Mhm.
the fun part.
Yep.
Women from all over the world can compete against each other, and they can not have the expense of the travel, the bike, the helmet, all the things. And so I just love it. I love that that's where you took it, and you had a vision, because really, what year did you start in it?
We started in 2020 when the pandemic happened.
2020.
So
So
yes.
you
So now
know,
we are
I
6
mean,
years in, and it continues to grow. It's insane, and again, it's a very cool way to involve people and connect them. This is the
mhm,
other thing, is what you're doing is amazing with the podcast, because you amplify the voice of people. But in our case, we are creating a community that is in touch with them days in and days out, so it's very powerful. And just by utilizing the power of the internet and gaming, and giving spaces and a safe space,
right.
that's what is important too, because we also know that online it can be kind of like difficult sometimes,
Sure. Yeah.
but by creating in this safe space for women by women, it creates this sense of like, oh man, I can do that,
Mhm.
and again, the goal is not just to compete digitally, the goal is to create a full-on pathway to participation.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to tell you, Melinda, that actually we are finding that it's very, very interesting, is the fact that throughout this process, we are discovering that not only people and women wanted to be involved as a driver, but a lot of them wanted to be involved as engineers.
Oh.
So that's very interesting,
Yes, that
meaning
is.
that they are more the ones they wanted to be kind of like part of the team, and figure it out ways to how they can improve, like even data analysis, or create some new product, that can be used on a car or a motorcycle. They really care about that too. So you really find a mix of people. The drivers, yes, but at the same time, you find somebody, they say, oh, I can have a career in motorsport that then doesn't necessarily have to be the driver, but
Mhm.
I can still apply my passion into it and be part of something glamorous and fun, and that I have a passion for. So it's very interesting, the finding that we're getting.
Now, I would have not thought of that. I would
Mhm.
have thought that it was more people who wanted to either enjoyed gaming and didn't really care about going full on live. And yet, there would be people that also would want the path to do that. But engineers, there's all kinds of fields in
Yes.
motorsports.
Hmm.
Accounting,
Yeah.
photography, PR, travel, you name it. Any other business has the certain kinds of jobs. Motorsports has the same ones. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's
And
exciting.
one thing on top of that, I wanted to add. So why we are seeing also all of this is because we have created a vertical called a Sim for STEM. Because you probably know, and everybody knows, that motorsport is all based on math. Everything is mathematical, like the racing line,
Mhm.
like anything to be able to improve, the car yourself. It's all based on math, right? So we have created this program that is called Sim for STEM, where basically we give a job preview of what it will be to be in a team. And you do it all digitally, so it becomes experiential learning. So we are in schools with this. So we just signed a contract with 4 districts in Southern California. We are in Indiana, of course, Indy 500 is there. We are up in Michigan, Detroit area. We are expanding now potentially even to New York State. So, and globally. But the beauty of this is that it is what I was explaining, with this program, kids get the opportunity to learn the behind the scene and what it takes, like to be faster on the track. And they do it through activity to a program, a progression program, but then they apply their learning into the simulators. So if they're not doing the math right, they're immediately seeing why they're not fast, right? Like we'll do a lot of telemetry, and analyzing of that. So while you see this, that's where you see people shining a little bit more on the engineering side of it, and then they have to help the driver, to get better. So it becomes all this team building thing, and a new way to teach math in schools, by just really getting them engaged, interested, and they're learning without even learning. But the beauty is that it's all based on their own data. So they are interested in wanting to continue to do it, because it's not like they are analyzing, a Lewis Hamilton lap time that they are going to be like, how can I reproduce that? It's like themselves. So simulators, in the classroom is able to do that. And again, we have seen the one, they started, they maybe don't even know nothing about motorsport at all, but they get involved in this way. Then we see, okay, this can be also a career in technical education. So therefore getting involved in engineering and marketing and accounting and all of that, but also give them an opportunity to become real fan of the sport and therefore consumer of the sport. That being, again, 2 or 4 wheels. So it is a full pathway that we have created. And we're very excited because it's taking on not only in the United States, but globally now.
What's interesting about that? I'm thinking about kids that don't like school. And so, let's say there's girl or boy, and they just don't see the reason for algebra or geometry or any of those things. And they're like, this is stupid. I'm never going to use this. And so if you teach it out of a book, I would probably have thought the same thing. And I love math. That's one of my favorite subjects in school. But I can't say that geometry was my favorite. But they see how it makes it fun.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And if they're like competing against the other classmates, it makes it more like a game and not so much like school.
Exactly. And that is all the point, and for us, of course, we are using motorsport to do all of this because it translates, like sim racing translate into in real life. Really, it's like a job preview when you do the class, and then you can already experience what it will be like to be part of a team, for example, and it's very interesting. That's why we are getting a lot of traction, I guess, in schools, because as you said, it gets the kids to want to be in school, go there and have fun, and they're learning without even learning. But most importantly, they see the applicability of it, right there and then.
Yeah. So how would, not necessarily through the school, but if I was a woman and I wanted to get involved, how would I do that? Like with the sim racing.
Yeah, there is different ways, to get involved. We do, if you want to be a racer, like into the sim racing world, we create women only competition every other weekend. It's free to enter, like you just have to have the game and the simulator, which we can help you with that, and then you start competing, and the other good thing is like all our races are also live on Roku television.
Really?
So yes, so like we are having so much traction with that too, because you can go on Roku if you have that, on your TV. We also have it on YouTube and Twitch. Twitch is the platform for gaming, but the fact that we are in regular television with Roku is very powerful. And so you get the chance to be seen, compete and have fun and grow in that way. There is another part of this because there are like the super elite international competitions. You have the opportunity, if you are getting good at this, to win a lot of money. And there are competition that I've seen that for the first they arrives is global. So you have to be good at a global level. But you can maybe even win $500,000.
Wow.
So to me, this is like for any woman that is out there that is looking for ways to fund their career, I keep saying, look at this.
Yes.
Because not only is practice for you, because instead of going into at the racetrack, the simulation is just as good, and it's cheaper because you don't have to pay for tires and gas and the car that maybe can get crashed or whatever. So spend a lot of laps in the sim. And if you're getting good, you can compete in this competition. And if you win the money, guess what? You can use it for your season, right?
Right.
So to me, it makes total sense that more and more people gets involved in sim racing, and it's been proven, that works. For example, not this year, but the last 2 years, the 2025 and 2024, the guy that won the NASCAR 500, it's a sim racer. He has not started with a go-karting career at all. He started with a sim and it got so good that then eventually, like the team picked it up and he won the Daytona 500 NASCAR. So the correlation is incredible. And I just want to tell you this. I just read this morning an article where Doreen Payne, she is one of the Formula One Academy graduate, and she's under the Mercedes kind of like umbrella now. She has been putting so many laps in the Formula One simulator at Mercedes that now, because she's doing so good on the sim, they are interested in putting her in a real Formula One car. So this is what we can do, see, because that will be her ticket to potentially be seen to get finally a woman on that grid.
Finally.
But without a simulator, it will not be possible because it will cost so much money to be able to go F3, F2, like in the teams, and then you're competing with all of these other guys, and what if there is someone that goes ahead of you because they have the money, so it's so difficult. But if you can prove yourself in the simulator, now, the conversation becomes way more like, why not? Explain why not.
Exactly.
We
need some women in that sport.
Oh, yes, indeed. Indeed. And not just behind the scene, behind the scene. It's time to have somebody on that grid for sure.
Absolutely. I'm waiting for that day, and that's going to be so exciting.
Yeah.
And to think that you might have had a part of that. Someone who's gone through this program ends up there. How's that going to make your heart feel?
I know, right? And we are dictating this from very early on. I wanted to share also this, like the program that goes in the school. So to be able to find that talent, right? We always say to any school principal or superintendent that it has to be at least 50% girls.
Oh, good for you.
Saying that, like the boys, is course, like they're going to want to do it, but if there is not enough girls, then the boys needs to recruit the girls. Otherwise, they cannot do the program. So with that mentality, we are instilling right off the bat that it's good to have a 50-50 team, and then potentially these kids are going to grow up with that mentality. So it's going to help even more the fact like, of course, we're going to have a woman in Formula One. Why not? Should be 50-50 grid,
Yes. I love that. I would not have thought about doing that, but otherwise the girls are intimidated too. It's like, oh, that class has got 20 boys and I'm the only girl. But now if it's like, oh, hey, and she gets a bunch of her friends and they're like, oh, they need half girls, let's do it. Makes it a whole different mindset of what they're doing.
Absolutely. Because I've been through, I know, as a racer, it's very difficult to find that one that steps up.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to do that because I have incredible parents. They always instill in my self-confidence. So they always say, hey, if you are good at what you're doing and you work hard, there is no reason that you cannot succeed.
Right.
But society is built different.
Yes.
Society is always built in a way that, especially for girls, is like, I don't know, do you really want to go through this? And, it's difficult. So it's very common to see, and history tells us, only one every few years, started to get that spotlight. And one thing that I think is very important that we all need to work very hard to change is the legacy aspect. As women, we don't have a true legacy. It's always like every time a woman does that step, oh, she's the first. Oh, she is the is it no, there's no first, there is many others that did it before.
Right.
And all of these other ones should be celebrated, because otherwise it becomes just a sensationalism.
Yes.
And that's what society is looking for, and sometimes brands too. But I feel like with the women's sport elevating, we are now in a position that maybe it should be thought in a different ways also, our below sport or motorsport, which is let's give room to the one that came before and tell the story, because this is what little girls will look at and say, oh, so it's not just her. There were others before. So then I can be that too,
Right.
Whereas if it is only one that gets the spotlight, it becomes very difficult to find others that wanted to do it, because they think, oh, it's impossible, I can make
Yes.
it. Right? So all of this component, for us, the sim racing, the going in the school, they're all little pieces of this puzzle. But of course, we need the media too to be able to start more and more to create the legacy. And thank you for doing what you're doing, because you really highlight a lot of women, like in your podcast, and that's incredibly important. We just need more the broader,
Broader.
media to do it too.
It's interesting. I was just at an event with WIMNA, which is Women in Motorsports North America.
Yep.
And so that's part of the Detroit chapter. And I was just at an event and we saw the movie about Paula Murphy.
Yes.
Excellent. And I didn't even really know who she was.
Exactly.
So that's a classic example of giving highlights or teaching these younger girls about the women that came before. And she's not the only one. There's a whole host of them. But even as someone involved in this sport, I don't always know who those people are because they haven't been brought to the forefront.
Yeah. And we need all as women, help that, and demand it, and say, hey, why you're talking about all of these guys from the past? Like why you don't talk about the women from the past?
Exactly.
This, again, in the broader scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
We just need to push it and say, no, that's not the first one. There was somebody before, and it's not to take away the spotlights to the one that is doing it right now. It's never that, because we know how hard she has worked to get that spotlight. But it is about create this legacy. And if you do a legacy, she will get much more in the spotlight because she's the one doing it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and again, it inspire all the younger one, and they started to believe in that they can be in that seat, one day, but continue to talk about, what happened, and it's not just something that just happened today.
Well, and as a younger person, if she can see that others have done it, it might encourage her and give her, she's like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. And give them the, I want to be part of that community or that group. And so instead of thinking I have to do this all myself, they can watch those movies about those women and what they did, and they can learn about them. And then they can be like, oh, I can do that. And I'm already starting to do that. And that's what's, I think, really important.
I 100% agree on that.
Yeah.
So it's all on our shoulder too, to continue to push this, and convince, Hollywood even, to make more movies, about these incredible women, that came before us. And it's just like it takes a village. And I finally see that through here in the US with WIMNA, and the efforts done behind the scene by many, many women, we are finally getting to a point that hopefully, we're going to get listened to, and therefore create this sort of like a legacy in front of everybody, so everybody can learn.
Right. So, Steffi, tell me, where would somebody go? What's your website, or where would somebody go to learn more, or to sign up, or all those good things?
Yes, so the website is called initesports.gg, because in the gaming world, the GG
Oh,
stands for a good game. So
oh, okay.
yeah, this is a very common in the gaming world. I mean, we all own the other URL, the .com. So if you use .com,
Yeah.
it still gets you there.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's where we have all of the information on how to enter, how to participate and whatnot. And then in the gaming world, what happens is that everybody communicate on this platform called Discord.
Oh,
So
yeah.
once you are sign up, you will receive a role in Discord, and that's where we have the community. So like
Okay.
all of this women, space, it's on our own Init Discord. It's a separate one underneath Init. So you get the role, so you can be in there, you can
Okay.
talk about anything you want, and help each other. And another thing is like the help aspect.
Mm-hmm.
We have noticing that once you create this sense of community, everybody wants to help each other. So even if you are new and you don't know, how to get in sim, first and foremost, you should do it because it's good for your racing. It's practice,
Right.
and if you don't know how to get involved, ask us because we can help you on that. Computers, we are working with a company that can give computers to very, very, very small budgets, and simulator, anything, we can help you. The game too, we can help you. But get in there, and then start, and don't be shy. Even if you might not be the fastest one, it doesn't matter,
Mm-mm.
you always get faster by continue doing it.
You
So
have to start somewhere.
just do it. Just get in there and try to do the practice. We also create sometimes just fun practice, that they are not broadcasted on television. So it's a way, to get there with the community and confront yourself, against others, but it's very low key, and fun and whatnot. So that's the biggest part, and then follow us on the social media because we need the love there, and it's everything under Init Esports, so on
Okay.
Instagram mostly, you can go there and yeah, and if you ever wanted to get in touch with me, I'm more like a LinkedIn person. So
Okay.
you can find me on LinkedIn, and then always happy to have a conversation with anybody that wants to get involved in this sport.
That's awesome. Steffi, I'm so glad we had you back on. There are so many things you're doing now that you hadn't been doing when, of course, when you first start. You start with
Yeah.
an idea, right? And
Mhm.
then people say, hey, why don't you try this, or why don't you do that? Or you're laying in bed at night and you can't go to sleep, and all of a sudden an idea comes to you. And I love the part about the schools.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be huge. And if there's any school people out there that want to
Yeah.
know more, I highly encourage you to get in touch with Steffi, because man, that's starting at a place where even if they don't go into motorsports, it gives
Right.
them something to base. Oh, I want to be an engineer or whatever it
Mhm.
might be. And so I love that. And you're awesome, kiddo. I love you. And I'm
Thank
glad
you.
that you're doing all this. Hopefully I'll get to see you in person here one of these days.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Most likely in some of the winter event because I
Yes.
happen to go to a few. So
Yeah.
yes, looking forward to meet you in person and continue this family, of
Right.
really motivated women that wanted to make a difference. So
Yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
for having me.
Well, thank you for being on, and you have a good rest of your week.
Thank you so much. Bye, Melinda. Thanks. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Start your engines. This is the Women's Motor Fun Network. From dirt track nights to the bright race lights, from the garage to victory.